Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories. Of course we are. And if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. And let's crack on with today's first story, which comes from Numerous Cycle 1895 from the Am I the Arsehole subreddit. And it says, am I the arsehole for cursing at my niece when she went into my office when I specifically told her it was off limits to guests? My 28 male sister, 33 female, is visiting me this week with her daughter / my niece, 13 female. I was excited to host them in my house as I haven't really seen my family much ever since I moved away from my home state for my career. For context, I'm a lawyer at a large firm. That means I have to take work home often, which is why I have a room in my house set up as an office. My office has privileged information about cases and clients. Long story short, when my sister and niece arrived yesterday, and after I helped them get settled in, I told them that there's only one rule that I have for staying in my house. My office is off limits. Fast forward a few hours and everything's fine and dandy. I'm just sitting on the couch with my sister watching a movie, until I get a call from a senior associate at work asking me to do a quick review of a document that he sent me via email. When I get upstairs, I see the door to my office is wide open, and the lights are on. When I go in to investigate, my niece is in there sitting in my chair and taking selfies with her feet on my desk. I was beyond furious. I only have one rule for guests at my house, and it's to stay out of my office. I have that rule for a reason. Not only would I be at risk of disbarment, but the integrity of the entire case would be jeopardized if any of that information is leaked. While I'm not accusing her of that specifically, I don't want uninvolved people in my office taking pictures and posting them on social media where there may or may not be protected information in view of the camera. I asked her what the hell she was doing, and she said, I was just curious. I want to be a lawyer like you when I grow up. I told her, get the fuck out and stay out, you little bitch. What? My sister came running up the stairs after my niece started crying and she told me I was a monster for talking like that to a kid. I told her she had no business being in my office, and my sister said that it doesn't matter because she's just a kid. So, am I the arsehole? Now, originally my thinking was I was going to go along the everyone sucks here. As I was reading it, I thought, she shouldn't be in the room, and I feel like you should have that room more secure. I mean, there's various things that could go wrong with this privileged information that's in your room. I mean, a locked cabinet, can't you get one of those? Anything that I want to make sure is secure is protected, password your computer, all that kind of stuff. Yes, the person should listen to you and not go into the room, but it's a risk. But when you went into that room and called a little bitch, a 13-year-old, your niece, you just went to get the fuck out and stay out, you little bitch, rather than sitting her down and explaining why it's so important she shouldn't be in that room, is absolutely wild ass behavior for me. I'm trying to put myself in your shoes, OP, and I said that to one of my nieces or nephews. My brother would uppercut me through the atmosphere. But I'm going to be going with a you're the arsehole on that one because that's just wild for me. But he who is person says she's 13. She was intentionally violating a rule, but still, what's wrong with you? Everyone sucks here. A solo practitioner, appeals and post-conviction, worked in appointed criminal cases only, has this to say. I think a fancy pants big firm attorney who had a bunch of privileged crap in their home office just like I do would put a fucking locking knob on the door and / or keep all materials locked in cabinets when not in active use. You are not adequately protecting these materials. Sure, your front door locks, but once someone's in the house, apparently they could easily get into the stuff without you noticing in time. Benedicta says everyone sucks here. Haven't seen that name in a while. A 13-year-old is old enough to understand that a certain room is off limits and not go in there. But calling her a bitch was taking it way too far. As a lawyer, you should have a much better grip on handling stressful situations without losing your cool. Lastly, why was she taking pictures of her feet? Edit. Opie has clarified that it was poor phrasing. She was sitting with her feet up taking selfies. Aiden the Grey replies that saying Opie is an arsehole, but that doesn't change the fact that 13 is plenty old enough to respect the one rule in the house. Everyone sucks here is appropriate. Remote article replies that and saying exactly. Regardless of everything, he shouldn't have to have locks on any doors because at 13 he should be able to trust his niece. His sister shouldn't let her daughter loose in someone's home if she can't be trusted to not get in trouble. If she can't follow something as easy as not going into a room that's off limits, she can't be trusted to keep out of stuff that could be dangerous. Lily explains it all, says, "At first I was furious on your behalf. You couldn't have been more clear about your office being off limits. But then you lost control and called her a little bitch, which is so far beyond the boundaries of normal interaction with children that I'm surprised you don't already know you're an arsehole. Anyway, everyone sucks here." I find this so wild. Look, I'm not excusing the 13-year-old going into the room. Like the comment says, she should know boundaries, etc, etc. But when she was in the room and OP confronted her initially, she said, "I was just curious. I want to be a lawyer like you when I grow up." So she admires him, and then his reaction was, "Get the fuck out and stay out, you little bitch." That's mad. Mary Moose says, "Everyone sucks here. You, because as a lawyer, you have a duty to ensure that your client's privileged information is kept confidential. You should not be leaving anything out in plain sight in your office, either at home or at work. Paper files belong in a locked file cabinet when not in use, and your computer should be turned off and password protected so no one is able to access it. Lock the door to be certain no one has access to your office. Also, cursing at a 13-year-old like that was unnecessary. Your niece, because she was told not to go in your office and she did anyway. The selfies and feet on desk just added insult to injury. At 13, she's old enough to follow the rules of your household. Your sister, because she doesn't seem to be teaching her daughter to follow the rules that you set out, not giving her daughter any consequences for entering your office without permission." And one more comment from Lizzie Speaks, who says, "Your niece was wrong for going into your office, especially since you made it clear that it was off limits. But who in their right mind says the words 'get the fuck out and stay out, you little bitch' to a literal child? One, by the sound of it, who idolized you since she wanted to be a lawyer like you. If that is how you speak to children, you lack maturity and self-control. I told you to stay out of here, and entering when I specifically said not to is completely unacceptable. Get out and make sure it doesn't happen again would have sufficed. But swearing at a child and calling her a little bitch is completely unacceptable, and as the adult, you should have known better. You're a lawyer, supposedly a professional person. Be better." OP did add some little bits of additional information before the update. So people were talking about locking the doors, etc, etc. OP says, "I live alone in a neighborhood where crime is essentially non-existent. I don't get many visitors, so I never really thought to put a lock on the door. But I'm definitely looking into getting a lock on that door now." Someone says about the pictures that he was taking. OP says, "I told her to delete them, though I don't know if she actually did. I didn't think to check her phone." OP also says, "Listen, I've worked hard for 3 years in law school to get this job, and I'll be damned if I lose it over something this stupid. Maybe I was a little harsh in my choice of words, but I won't apologize for telling her off." Then adds, "Thanks for your comment. I'm going to talk to her later today to try and make it a teachable moment about the profession. To be honest, I didn't mean any of that when I said it. I was angry and it slipped." And OP talking about the teachable moment is absolutely correct in my opinion. Yes, people might say that we shouldn't reward bad behavior, i.e. her going into the office when she shouldn't have done, but this is someone who looks up to OP, wants to be a lawyer when she grows up. That could have been a huge moment, saying, teaching her about privacy and confidentiality, why it's so important in your profession, even a bonding moment. Yes, again, I know she shouldn't have been in that office, but she's 13. Yes, again, I know people jump on my back saying it's not an excuse, etc, etc. That's just such a shit way to deal with things. I'm sorry. You might not agree with me on that one, but holy moly. OP comes back in with an update and says, "Well, I certainly wasn't expecting this post to get this many responses. So I first wanted to start off by thanking each and every one of you for taking the time to read my post and weigh in with your judgment. Even the people that sent me death threats in DMs. You know who you are. God, there's some sick bastards out there, aren't there? Special thanks to those who sent in their judgments via DM when the mods locked down the thread. After reading the comments and having some time to cool down and think about all this, I accept that I was an arsehole in this situation. While I was right to be mad, I overreacted and made the situation something that it wasn't. This is also a wake-up call for me to stop being lazy and do a better job of securing my documents. I'll admit that the inconvenience of locking everything down led me to being sloppy. Not anymore. I've ordered a lock for my office door and a fireproof safe for my paper files. My desk has lockable drawers and my computer is password protected. I'm also seriously considering a security camera. Last night I probably spent 20 minutes apologizing to both my niece and sister. I promised that I would never yell at her or use that type of language towards her ever again. She accepted my apology. We gave each other a hug and she also apologized for being in the office. My sister forgave me as well. I also took them out to their favorite restaurant. My niece and I had a conversation over dinner about the importance of attorney-client privilege and the secure handling of confidential information. Two things that are extremely important if she's serious about becoming a lawyer. She seemed genuinely curious, and I answered all the questions that I could about these types of cases that I handle. When we got home, I decided to surprise her. I showed her around the office, and I let her take another picture at my desk, after I put away all my sensitive files, of course. Thanks, Reddit. And for me, I'm glad that OP took the feedback and, did make it a teachable moment for his niece. There's some different comments on the update as well. Some people saying, I think you made a mistake by apologizing, that you set the rules and they broke them, and then tried to downplay it. Some people found it funny what OP said. Other people agreeing that glad he's made it a teachable moment at the same time as well. But now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Let's move on to another story. And our next story comes from the Am I the Arsehole Here subreddit from Ryushi Lian. Does have an update as well that says, Am I the Arsehole Here for not stopping my wedding after the death of a family member? For a bit of context, I have been no contact with my family. They were verbally abusive, and as soon as I could support myself, I cut them off. The only family member I'm close with is my sister, who is not no contact but also not close with my family. My family knew I was getting married that day because of my sister. I, 25 female, recently got married to my husband, 25 male. On the day of the ceremony, right before the reception, my sister, 27 female, got a call from my mum, stating that my paternal grandmother had just passed. My sister informed me of this, and I simply said okay and carried on with getting ready. As a duty, my sister told me that she needed to go there and support my father. I told her that was fine by me, but also said that she should tell my family, if they ask, that I will neither be stopping my wedding for this nor be attending the funeral. She was fine with that, but apparently my family wasn't. I got many angry texts and missed calls from my family that they sent from my sister's phone. I was told by my sister that they were also berating and bad-mouthing me behind my back for caring more about a stupid event, their words, over the passing of a family member. The top comment on this one said, not the arsehole. Your sister should not have told people you have no contact with about your wedding. That's a breach of trust. Your utter lack of concern over the death, if it wasn't fake just to screw with your wedding, is not a good look. But considering the history, your family harassing you after the fact is so ugly. And since you've decided to be no contact with them, why do you care what they have to say about anything? And your sister seems to be a pot stirrer, since she's reporting it all to you. Tell her you don't care and don't want to hear anything more about them. Your sister is letting them use her phone to send you messages. I'll be blocking her number too. How much of any of this have you verified outside what your sister is telling you? Have you looked to see if there's an obituary? Something is fishy here. Opie says, just a bit of info. I blocked my family over all means of communication. I've mentioned in the post that they use my sister's phone to send messages and to call me. Thanks for your honest opinion. I agree that I should have been a bit more concerned regarding a death, but I really don't care because my family is dead to me. Desert Bro says, not the arsehole. However, you didn't need to have your sister give your opinion on the death at all. Confirm with sister, that's it. You'll no contact with the rest. They don't need a message about anything. Opie says, I just told her in case I am attending to the people I actually care about. They tell my sister to call up and ask me if I'll be attending the funeral or even showing up and mourning. But I see what you mean. And I'm not really sure why people expect this kind of thing from people like OP in this situation. OP's clearly gone no contact for a big reason. They said verbally abusive, and soon as they could support themselves, they cut them off. They wanted nothing to do with them, and in their words in this story, that they're dead to them now. So expecting OP to suddenly turn around and turn up at a family's funeral is just wild to me. And although it's sad in some ways for me, but I think OP would be right in cutting contact with her sister at the same time. She's not helping the situation at all. She's going back to the family, feeding information about OP again, who again is no contact with them and is allowing them to use her phone. And look, I understand sister might be going through some stuff as well with this family because, you know, we've seen it time and time again. But currently within this situation, he's bringing drama into OP's life by allowing this to happen. And I myself was trying to think along the lines of grief, and I found this comment from Saturnish who says, I'm no contact with much of my bio family for various reasons, but basically I'm not like them and they've ostracized me and abused me for that over my adult years. The comments on the original post will never understand what that's like. We grieved them a long time ago and don't take the no contact lightly. OP wasn't being flippant about the death like she was accused. She had simply already mourned them. And I found that rather interesting. But now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. Have you guys ever gone no contact with some family members of yours? If you're happy to give your side of things, and did you feel like that you've already sort of like grieved that relationship? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. I'll be really interested. But again, don't share if you don't want to. You know, the internet can be a wild place. A random little side quest before we move on. This morning when I woke up, I had a notification on my phone and I just, you know, swiped it down and had a quick look just as I was waking up. You know, everything's still blurry. And I read this title, which actually says, am I the arsehole for not telling my dad's guest that I marinated the chicken with milk? And it popped up on my notifications, and in my blurry eyes, I read it. And I just saw, am I the arsehole for not telling my dad's guest that I married the chicken? And I was like, what the fuck? Anyway, totally random. Let's go on to another story. And this story comes from the Am I the Arsehole subreddit. Doesn't have an update as yet, from Adventurous18593, and says, am I the arsehole for telling my daughter she's being selfish and that she needs to take an Uber since I'm not leaving her older brother's wedding? This has been a built-up issue. My son got married this weekend and this issue isn't dying. I'm going here. My daughter has very bad anxiety. She's 19 and I will call her Shelly. Shelly used to go to therapy when she was a minor but stopped when she turned 18. Ever since then, her anxiety has been out of control, and due to this, she won't drive anymore. She has a license but refuses to drive. We live in the USA and driving is basically needed or is a big inconvenience for the people around her. Also, she is an adult, so it's not like we can force her to drive. This is the issue. My son was getting married and she was uncomfortable with so many people around at his wedding. She asked me to take her home. I told her no, and if she's having difficulties, wait in the car. She told me it's freezing outside and she needs to leave. I told her no again, turn on the heat in the car and wait if she needs to be away from people. She don't like this answer and told me she will have an attack if she stays and she needs to go home. I told her to take an Uber and that I'm not leaving. She doesn't like this and this was turning into a full argument. Shelly told me I need to take her home again and I had enough. I told Shelly she is being selfish. She has many opinions and I will not deprive her brother, my son, of his parents being at his wedding. If I took her home, I would miss his wedding since it was an hour drive here. She called me a jerk and left to stay in the car for a bit. She was back about an hour later for the rest of the wedding. She's been pissed since, and a younger brother is copying her. Antelope31 says, not the arsehole. Thank God you said no. Notice how she magically was able to cope when push came to shove. That tells you a lot. She is used to getting her way, and it's high time she started living in the real world and take responsibility for her own life. She needs to stop using anxiety, a perfectly normal emotion, as an excuse not to push herself to learn tools to cope and take responsibility for her own life and future, including seeking therapy if needed, and legit likely is. Her emotional manipulation and threats need to lose the power they've had in the past. Again, not the arsehole. It's called good parenting. She's 19, not 9. HP Nerd says not the arsehole 100%. As you stated, she is now an adult. You can't force her to do things. She quit therapy and that's on her. If she has a panic attack, it is not your responsibility. She is now an adult and needs to figure out how to handle this. Expecting her mother to miss her own child's wedding is absolutely selfish. You need to sit her down and lay out expectations. She's decided to quit therapy. She's decided to no longer drive. It is now on her to decide how to handle the difficulties she's going to face as a result of this. If she's still living with you, then a requirement of staying with you needs to be therapy. Panic attacks are awful, but if she's sound enough mind to try and blame you because she might have one, then I question the validity of them in the first place. And one more comment from Loungefly Lover, who says not the arsehole, and that's coming from someone who has anxiety myself. You gave her options. I once, like your daughter, had a reaction like this, and my mum put her foot down and said I wasn't allowed home. I had to wait for the people I was with to come home. And you know what? I'm glad she did, as I had an amazing time at the concert I was at. At the time, I didn't realize it was anxiety. But since then, I found ways to cope and calm me down when having them, and I now don't have them as often. Also, your daughter said she was going to have a breakdown, but then managed to come back. But now, I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? I know many people have expressed that they suffer and still do suffer from anxiety. How would you deal with the situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below, if you choose to do so, of course. Now, just a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting involved in today's stories. Your love, your support, your time always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much for being involved. You're absolutely incredible. And hopefully, I will see you in the next one. Take care and much love.